This is a story. It's called A Good Egg. An egg was granted sentience one day. It had happened with very little fanfare in the middle of February at a local grocery store in Cleveland, Ohio. A father and his young son were standing in the dairy department near the long aisles of refrigerated doors, each one cradling a delicate egg in his hands, holding it up to the fluorescent lighting for inspection. "What are we looking for?" said the son. "Cracks, imperfections," said the father. "You have to be careful. A good egg is hard to find." Thank you. The father picked up the next egg in its yellow styrofoam carton and held it against the light. There was a small brown freckle near the parabola of the egg's top, and near the bottom was a little dimple, the epicenter of 4 distinct hairline fractures. He was about to return the egg to its ergonomic clamshell when the egg spoke to him. The father flinched, making a wounded sound. He nearly dropped the egg. "What's wrong?" said the son. He set his own egg back down in its place as a precaution. "This egg just said something," said the father. "I felt it hum in my hands." "You're lying," said the son. But even as he said this, the egg spoke again. "Hello," said the egg. "Who are you?" It was an obvious enough question to ask. The father and son stood dumbfounded for a moment. They looked around the grocery store as if they were the victims of some bizarre prank. A gaggle of elderly women passed silently by, pushing their empty carts in a zombified state. "Answer it," said the son. The father was a serious man. He was not accustomed to having discussions with his breakfast foods. And yet the son seemed to be pleading with the father with his eyes, so the father turned to the egg and said, "Hello," in a loud, exaggerated voice. "We are humans from the planet Earth. We come in peace." "It's not an alien, it's an egg," said the son. "We mean you no harm," continued the father. "How can you talk?" said the son, interrupting. There was a pause before the egg answered. "I simply think things and they become words," said the egg. "How can you talk?" "Something involving the larynx and the vocal cords," said the son. "I learned about it in my health class." "Interesting," said the egg. The egg came to live with the father and son, nesting safely in the nook of a pillow placed on top of their television set in the family room. Certain gossiping neighbors began to take notice of the father and son, the way they stood in front of their large picture window framing the family room, engrossed in what appeared to be daily animated discussions with the egg, the son holding it up the way Hamlet held Yorick. Unflattering rumors were spread. Dolores Muckmeyer across the street put in a phone call to the local news, desperate to expose the perverts next door. When Channel 5 arrived at the residence, they were astonished to find that the egg in fact could speak. "It is so wonderful to meet everyone," said the egg. The boom operator wept openly. The father was very happy to have this kind of attention and welcomed the cameras to film him doing the most banal household chores, making a sandwich, folding his laundry, etc. The film crew encouraged him to do this, saying that it would make good B-roll footage later. The father wanted to stress the importance of the egg to his son's sense of family after the passing of his wife. "Today marks the anniversary of her death. The egg brings us a sort of comfort," he said on camera. The son smiled and waved cheerfully, posing with the egg and sometimes kissing it on its creamy white shell. When national broadcasting syndicates got word that there was a talking, emotive egg living in a small home in the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, they descended on the city hoping to get the first interview. "Why now?" they wanted to know. "Why have you chosen this moment to reveal yourself to us?" And the egg, propped against its pillow and given a small microphone, said, "I do not know. Perhaps it was an accident. I did not have any control over the matter." And the reporters nodded because they understood that there was a certain wisdom in what the egg was saying. "Are there more eggs like you?" they asked. And the egg said, "Look at my body. It is a perfect design. I am symmetry and balance and the origin of all things. There is no one like me." And the reporters nodded again because what the egg was saying was true, of course. The egg's interview was broadcasted live to anxious families at home, transfixed by their televisions and computer screens. Historians mark this day as one of the most significant in human history, more significant than the moon landing, the death of Elvis Presley, or the resignation of President Nixon from office. The egg's popularity soared. It was now a part of the national consciousness. Average Americans related to the egg because of its straightforward, no bullshit common sense. Small business owners appreciated the egg's fierce sense of individuality. The hideously wealthy admired the egg as a maverick, its ability to pull itself up by its own bootstraps, elevating itself from its previously desperate situation. The hideously poor saw the egg's potential for humanitarian work. Surely, being a food itself, the egg could see the importance of feeding the hungry. Callers flooded daytime television shows with questions about the egg. In response, the egg was invited as a guest on Good Morning America to talk about the nation's decaying education system and the latest celebrity sex scandals. The egg was offered huge sums of money to endorse a myriad of products, from high-end cookware to alternative forms of birth control. The egg politely declined all of these requests, saying merely, "It is not the natural order of things." The egg continued to live in Cleveland with the father and son, but the father and son were becoming increasingly uncomfortable with all of the sudden attention thrust upon the egg. They had come to think of the egg as a sort of child, something that needed nurturing and protection. The son would spend his afternoons and weekends sitting on the couch with the egg in his lap, swaddling it in blankets. They sat together and watched family sitcoms, the son sometimes making soft hushing noises to the egg, even though the egg never spoke during these moments. The father would watch them from the threshold of the next room, smiling with an uncontrollable happiness. He thought that his heart might burst at the sight of it. He clutched at his chest. A year passed, and the egg's meteoric rise showed no signs of slowing. Conflicts all over the world were resolved almost immediately in observance of the egg's simple, magnanimous example. Israelis and Palestinians became brothers and sisters. Russia and the United States made good on their promises to destroy all of their nuclear stockpiles and ended their military escalations. World religions began to return to a message of love and acceptance. Refugees across the globe were returned to their homes. In every street, in every city, in every country, people were gentle with one another. Of course, the egg was not without a small faction of discontents. Some maintained that the egg was part of a secret communist socialist agenda. Others said that the egg was an elaborately choreographed piece of performance art put on by an anonymous group of fringe postmodern sculptors from Prague. And others still decried the egg as the Antichrist, an abomination, and a slight against God. The egg was invited by the US president to speak as an ambassador to the United Nations. It would speak on a world stage. The father and son watched from their family room as the egg addressed the world on live television. "You should be very proud," said the father to his son. "You've shown that egg a lot of love." He wrapped his arm around the boy. They sat quietly together, two beautiful things in a small family room in a small house in Cleveland, Ohio. In New York, influential leaders from all over the globe assembled to hear what the egg had to say. The Pope and the Dalai Lama were in attendance. There was excited chattering in the audience as the egg entered the room. And as the egg entered the room, a reverent hush washed over the crowd. The egg was carried in on a simple napkin and placed on a little plastic stand on a burnished podium in the center of a very large stage. No one dared to move or breathe. Something was about to happen. There was the sound of whining feedback from the microphone, and then the egg spoke. "Be kind to one another," said the egg. There were wild cheers from the audience. It received a standing ovation. With that, the egg fell silent. The egg was murdered yesterday. A deranged man broke into the house in Cleveland while the father and son were away and committed a heinous act of breakfast. The headlines in all of the papers read in large, screaming font, "Scrambled." Mickey Strudtutter, a 41-year-old Caucasian male, 6'1", 180 pounds, was unrepentant to the end. Mickey said that his only crime was that he loved the egg too much, that in order to love the egg properly, he had to consume it, to convert it into energy for the body. "That's the purpose of an egg," he said. He told the police that the egg had not resisted. During the subsequent trial, Mickey was quoted as saying it was delicious, which led to a violent and bloody riot in the courthouse. Mickey's public defender later killed himself out of guilt. In Cleveland, the father and his son sat among the many bouquets of flowers and stuffed animals left by mourners. "We should have been home," said the son. "We should have been there to stop it." He looked to his father for an answer. Why would anyone want to kill the egg? "People are afraid of things they don't understand," said the father. The son rested his head in his father's lap. It was the obvious answer, but it was also probably the right answer. Do you think there will ever be another egg like him? He said. No, said the father. We are on our own now. Thank you.